Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Hey guys, it's another episode of MC Anime After Dark. Steven's back with us today. Culinary background, hospitality, and paranormal activist. What's going on?
Nothing much, just sitting here, waiting for you to tell us what we're talking about.
Good. So that's Steven for you. But yeah, today's topic is going to be the Pennhurst Asylum haunted house. We're going to talk about it in detail, what has been there, and what has been like some of the other stuff like paranormal activity, the overview of the history, why it's considered haunted, and real life teams that have investigated this place who also have real life claims. So where you want to start?
I guess that's up to you. That's the question.
All right. So with the overview of Pennhurst, what do you think the history is so complex that makes it a haunted house? Let's just say that.
Well, based on research, Pennhurst was originally a hospital for the epileptic and feeble-minded.
Yes.
So it originally started out as a good institution. However, as the times changed and it developed into more of a mental hospital, you have to remember back in the 60s, mental health was just being developed.
Yeah.
So most people that were admitted, they were treated differently and not in good differently, because the doctors did not know like our therapists today. The doctors thought that unhuman experiments would help, cure, which it didn't. So a lot of Pennhurst history is known for malnourishment, unjust treatment, experimentation of the patients.
True. And you have to also say the feeble-minded individuals are also people in insane hospitals. And then the almshouses with the community care, the reformation to the prisons, the immediate need of specialized institutional care was one of these facilities to facilitate care to the ever-growing mental health umbrella.
Correct. And that's why when the institution originally opened, it was a good institution.
Yeah.
But as the years went by, and then the legislative body of that state did not help much either, because they deemed that anybody with a mental disorder or epileptic were not a contributing member of society. So they would push them to that asylum.
Yeah.
So it went from a good quality hospital to an asylum where the doctors were allowed to treat people however they wanted, because they would classify you as mentally insane.
True.
And then the government's not going to care about you because, well, Mason, you're different, so we don't care about you.
Well, there's also physical means as well. If you had a physical handicap, that can also be tied to this umbrella as well.
I had a lot of people, epileptic, mental, that when they attended the therapies, they were making progress until the hospital went downhill. So under the first administration of the hospital, they were making good progress. They were trying to make the patients be able to re-enter society, like a prison. The goal is to rehabilitate somebody, so even though you committed a crime, you can now go back out and be a member of society again. But then the administration changed, and they decided, well, these people are mentally challenged or deranged. They're just not going to be a member of society. And they started allowing the doctors to experiment and put certain patients in seclusion rooms. Now, when they got in those rooms, they were beat, they were abused. So a lot went downhill as the hospital changed hands.
Okay. So you think the effect of a trauma associated with negative energy can bring a presence into a building, let it linger for years after?
Absolutely, because that will draw into the hauntings. And why today it's used as a sort of like a school, a convention site where they have paranormal tours, they have conventions, and all big paranormal investigators will go down there once a year. They're selling tickets right now. You ready?
They go down
And go down there and just walk around. And they do day tours. But a lot of the hauntings are from ex-patients. And we're not just talking ones still walking. We're talking the ones that don't want to leave.
Oh yeah. They even have their own website.
Plan a visit. We'll go lock ourselves in there.
Pennhurst is kind of funny.
Wouldn't it be fun to lock ourselves in there?
PreservePennhurst.org is the website. So, but anyway, that's if you want to visit. So back to potential.
I think your question last thought was, do you think the treatment over the years of patients that obviously expired there would inspire the ghost? I think that's what you were getting at.
Yes. So with the ghost, what do you know about some hauntings?
In any haunting, and it doesn't have to be Pennhurst, there are multiple reasons why people do not want to depart. A lot of them are, and the top two are, they want to haunt there because they were abused or treated wrong, or they are trying to protect somebody.
Yeah.
Those are the top two that any paranormal agency would say that's why they're not going to leave. That and the environment determines. Environment could be a good example of the Salem witch trials. That whole town is haunted. You can't walk into a restaurant without hearing something.
True.
So environment. But in Pennhurst's instance, a lot of the ghosts, and this was reported from tours. I got this from, let me look at the webpage again. Philly Ghost. I got it from Philly Ghost. And the article says that a lot of the ghosts are non-hostile. One key always reported ghost is a little girl just walking around singing, and you can hear a ball being pushed around.
True.
So she must have died there, and she's lonely. And there have been several nightly reports of a couple satanic, satanic worshiping. So they had like a church where they were worshiping devils. There are a couple of those reported. But for the most part, most of the ghosts are palatable. They're intense, but they don't want to bother anybody. They just want out.
True. I mean, if you go to this place now, you're going to have to sign a waiver just to waive any rights of anything that could happen potentially of paranormal.
You blame them?
activity.
Hey, let's call it a tour, Mason. No waiver and you get hit in the head by a ghost.
Upon arrival, you'll be asked to check in to complete the waivers. So, I mean, you're touring this place. They give you ghost gear, which is interesting, or you bring your own. They have food and beverages supplied that you could purchase, and there's no AC and there's no conditions for the rain. So pretty much, if you go in the heat, you get hot. If you go in the cold, you get cold. If you go in bad weather, well, that's just the bad weather you're going to experience, because this attraction is basically waves. So anything like a heat stroke or creepy crawly down your back, it's just not going to be in your best favor if it happens and you sign the waiver. So
I mean, the weather is one thing, but then the other stuff you mentioned comes with the name of Pennhurst, because it is listed as the most haunted place in eastern Pennsylvania.
True.
I mean, the only people that re-enter this place are professional ghost hunters. Every event outside, you are kept in a certain area, and for good reason, because if you go inside the actual building, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Ghost hunters have been the only ones that have gone in there and come out. I think the one show is that man and a woman, and they're both like adepts or something like that.
Mhm.
I think it's called Ghost Adventures, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ben, they've been in there, and they reported it's very palatable, very intense. You can hear like chairs being thrown across the hall, moaning. The lady sat in one, and she was sitting next to one of the examining areas. She was sitting in the center where the nurses would sit, and down there you have the rooms around 1 a.m. because they kept a diary. She said she could have sworn she heard a voice and a chair kick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know about you and me, but I think we would start to run from the minute that chair hit.
Yeah, true. Pennhurst doesn't have much impact. The only really big impact is Stranger Things, when they actually had a Pennhurst in a fictional asylum. So
Most of the patients, you got to figure, most are patients that I just want to get out, or they're angry that they died in that horrible place.
true. Yeah, I also think that with that being said, you definitely have lots of activity, and the people going there is kind of like don't know what to expect. So
I mean, if you're touring there, you should do some research like you're doing before you go in there. And you don't go into a haunted house and expect to have slashes on your back.
true.
If you're gonna do good, yeah, go down to Bourbon Street and some of those bars. You know, you're gonna get slashed from ghosts. Bourbon Street is haunted,
True.
but Pennhurst is one of the most haunted places in the U.S. area. In the U.S., if you like paranormal, it's the place to go explore or see if you can spend. Actually, you can't even spend the night in the place. They lock it up because of all the activity. You
Yeah.
can only do tours during the day because the day tours are heavily policed. They won't let you wander off. You have to stay near a guide because they've had people that wandered off and they got hurt to the point that they wanted to sue the place because they literally got attacked. One lady in a tour, she was walking with the tour. She didn't leave the tour, but she could have sworn something slapped her on the back. She looked at it and there were claws going straight down her back. Not a touch, literally claws. And the claws digged into the skin. That's not like nice. That is a
You have to know that this is disabled people, mentally ill, orphans were thrown in here, immigrants were thrown in here, even criminals were in the institution as well.
Yeah.
So
People should realize that yes, the child is the main one you see and hear, but that doesn't mean some of the demonic ones are not there too.
True.
So when you go to this place, I personally wouldn't mind going.
3,000 people, overcrowding, disabled for not being citizens of normal society because they posed a threat to the peace.
Exactly. That's what I read too. They got to a point in this place they were even abusing the people in the wheelchairs.
Really? For what?
Yes,
I didn't even
because
know
as the staff degraded, it got to the point people funding this place just really didn't care anymore. So the staff they hired, they would just end up abusing the wheelchairs people. They talked down to the feeble-minded. Now imagine being there and there. If you didn't die, you're going to want to haunt this place because this is where you suffered the most. Think about that. So people that go there, I wouldn't mind going. This sounds fun. But
children from 6 months to 5 years were tied down to beds. So
wouldn't you be angry if you died there?
probably the patients.
Okay. Otherwise, you'll be lucky if you can count that girl. I would love to count the kids. She's going to be the nicest one there.
I mean, you have divided into 3 categories: imbecile or insane, epileptic or healthy. Dental categories of good, bad, and treated teeth. They even had co-ed at one point, and then they stopped because they were separated because pregnancy came into effect.
And let's not forget that if this was like a mental place during the war, You have places like this that were around during the Civil War. Those are even more haunted because of the malaria.
Yeah.
But this one is the most haunted one in eastern Pennsylvania. And it was a terrible institution when it was operating.
True.
I mean, people did not want to end up there. But because the government or the state legislature at the time deemed you, oh, Mason, you're too feeble-minded to be a contribution to society, so we're just going to throw you in here. Whether you got better or not, that's where you're living.
True.
So, yeah, it's fun to go on, but people, you need to know the history before they go trotting around a haunted house and expect to have fun.
I don't know if they're gonna have. Well, I mean, you also had to take in fact that with the different apparitions there, different personnel, what is the most frightening thing that you think of when you think of Pennhurst?
I would think
the treatment or the abuse, or do you think that the institution allowed such things to take place the way that they did?
I would think the last part, because that answers your question of over all of the questions. The institution allowed the malnourished, they allowed the treatment, they allowed the abuse, and they allowed the interrogations.
True.
That they expected people to get better here. If you're allowing all that to happen, you're not going to get anybody to get better. And then the people that die there, because they'll never get released, are going to want to stay there.
Yeah, I mean, the abuse by the caretakers, making some people who are sane and then aggravate them to the point where they become violent aggressively, does speak to the state of mind, how they were feeling, how they were compared to if they died there in the abuse or being, just dying because they didn't have enough to survive.
And think about the type of death that they got. We'll consider that.
Years or
Red ghost comes from a positive death. These people were dying of negative energy. They're not going to want to leave because they have unfinished business there.
Yeah.
That's why I said I wouldn't mind going there. I'd like to experience this. You can be the buddy book.
But there's also nighttime investigations, I think at the 10 o'clock. But no, you don't stay overnight. But
Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to stay overnight there.
I don't know. That's a lot of permission. I don't think a lot of people do that. Unless they're like some TV paying for it.
Probably have to pay a lot of money to stay overnight anyway.
Yeah. I don't even know what the tours will be. How much are the tours?
Enjoy the day tour. I mean, you may or may not get attacked.
Yeah.
Start with that as a tour guide and see how many people do about face leave.
Yeah. I do think that some things can definitely be the opposite of what it worked.
Most ghosts, if we're talking about the haunting side alone, are not hostile.
Yeah.
Most ghosts are kind of like Casper. They're there, they have unfinished business, and they want to go home.
True.
But people that have died a horrific death or a traumatized death are the reason that they come back angry and devilish. They are angry about the way that they died. They blame the conditions and they blame the staff. And they think that the people that are in that building today should be the ones to suffer.
Yeah.
Other than that, all it is nowadays is a grown-out facility that has vines and dust all over it.
Yeah.
And they hold events there once or twice a year.
True. Yeah. I also think that sometimes, when you think about, like, say, Dr. Fraser, who also was in the darker mind for the asylum. Safe haven for the facade. The parents got to wear a peek behind the curtain that the Pennhurst was facing with, but you also believe that they were more feeble-minded, propping up. They needed to create a space for them to be out of the gene pool. So eugenics was very much a dark history that was contributing to mental care at this point. Dr. Fraser, who was also eugenicist, pretty much trying to do these things for the betterment of society. What do you know about eugenics in a way that connects to Pennhurst?
Genetics?
Eugenics.
I know absolutely nothing about it, never heard of it.
Eugenics is a movement that prevented the ill of society. So if you were drinking, you need to go somewhere. If you're homeless, you need to go somewhere. Women should not have children. So it's like a positive, like deemed the fit to reproduce. Negative measures such as marriage, prohibitions, forced sterilization of people doing these things. It's just that really depends on how eugenics was enforced. In the mental asylum, well, eugenics will apply to where they don't fit within society. They need to go somewhere. So here's the spot for them to do that. So, you have the positive side. The dark side is pretty much people being experimented on. They're thinking that they can better their lives as a more improvement stage. But really, in this situation, Pennhurst serves as a deadly reminder that what did we originally think that we were getting with eugenics? Were we getting people that were treated good if they were in a space that fit for them? Or were they not fitted for society because society deemed them not fit?
So eugenics could be seen as the development of psychiatric.
Yes.
And
Stages of it in some way.
so you got to think about it in modernism. The way they were doing it was wrong. Because just because you have a mental condition, autism. So in their view, back in 1960s, 70s, if you have autism, they're going to corral everybody with autism and stick them in a small room and leave them there. That's not going to cure anything. But then also on their view back then, let's corral a select few into a room and beat the hell living daylights out of them.
Yeah.
All on an off chance that they find some way to make themselves justified that they bettered modern medicine. None of that is really good.
No, it's not.
Because you're either corralling them in like horses and leaving them there for no purpose at all, or you're doing the opposite of what that doctor was trying to do and corralling a select few, let's say 5, and throwing them into a room because a couple days from now, I'm going to go in there and beat the living tar out of one of them. And if I get something from it, I've just helped modern medicine.
Well, not just that. If you beat them up, when they do the same to you, they see you as the attacker, they go against you.
Now you're thinking about the House on the Haunted Hill movie.
Oh.
Where they all turned on the doctor.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, this is a very weird.
Well, we'll do it right now. And honestly, some of the patients in the sanatorium did turn on the staff.
Well, yeah. And then when they did that, they had to be either subdued.
It didn't really do much good.
Either subdued or maybe they couldn't live anymore because of the injuries from subduement. So I don't know.
Goes back to the haunting because now they're not wanting to leave.
True.
Yeah. And you also got to think what happened to some of the staff that died there.
Yeah.
Imagine working there and there's a revolt.
Yeah.
You don't have much security. You got the orderlies and the nurses. And the amount of patients that were in there, they would have overpowered the staff instantly.
True.
Or Pennhurst had a lot of its curse. I still can't believe there's not a lot more evil activity than there is.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has an impact. I mean, even Ghost Hunters did an episode.
Yeah, didn't they find a lot of more hostile stuff in the nights than were on the tours? I think they did.
Yeah. I think because they were spending the overnight, so the special episode kind of like it made it more.
Yeah, Ghost Hunters did one, and the Tennessee Wraith Chasers did one too.
Yeah.
One of their people actually got attacked.
True. So pretty much with real life ghost hunters going there, do you think they agitate the spirits more because they were disturbing them more?
Well,
so the tours?
You got to remember when they do those investigations, they have to irritate the spirits a little bit to actually get them to come out. It's not that they're faking it, but they have to get a response so they can record something. So they have to antagonize the spirits to come out of hiding so they can get a recording. Now, you don't want to antagonize them to the point where they're going to attack you, but you're trying to solicitate a response from them.
True, but sometimes the responses are the attacks, or at least the beginning of it.
Well, I mean, that's why the Tennessee Rape Chasers was canceled, because of an attack on the founder of the show's brother. They canceled the show because he got attacked by a demonic being, and it literally left marks all the way down the side of his face.
Did they air that
The show was
episode?
canceled.
Did they ever air the episode or no?
They were re-airing those episodes on Travel Channel at one
Oh,
point.
shoot.
But that show was a good representation. They went to a lot of the haunted prisons. I wouldn't mind doing an episode on that. Pick out a haunted prison. They went to a lot of the hospitals. They went to a fort that was used for the eel soldiers during the during the Civil War. I can't remember which one. So they went to all the real high activity places. And it just came back and out of random, his brother got attacked and he thought it was time to do it in because it was a malicious attack. This wasn't occasion. The spirit came after him. So to come after an investigator, you had to do something to irritate that spirit.
This is at Pennhurst or just in general?
I think the Rape Changer guy was in Pennhurst, but I can't remember all their episodes.
Okay, so maybe the Pennhurst was a different episode and Spirit attacked them in another episode. Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely interesting how even modern age you have like Pennhurst being modeled in Stranger Things and other versions of it, like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So it's a physical version of Pennhurst. But then you also have like the Heaven and the Earth grocery store, which is basically a representation of Pennhurst. I think also with everything that happened, maybe there is too much interest in this property and the spirits just died down because there's too much people going there.
Well, eventually, if you leave them alone, you got to remember, maybe they're just going to die down and go dormant. Most of the activity in the past, so many people were investigating that it's going to increase the activity. Nowadays, the most activity they get is a day tours and conventions. And the conventions are in the courtyards, away from where the patients were.
Yeah.
So the spirits are going to die down. Now, maybe if you don't want to get hurt, leave the spirits alone and let spirits be spirits.
True.
I mean, if they're happy being ghosts, let them have the place.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're doing, don't go into the most haunted sanatorium and start irritating the ghosts. It's not going to end well for you.
Sounds like it sounds like you should do that, to be honest.
What?
Yeah, you should irritate the ghosts. Maybe you can go home.
Okay, well, if I'm going to do that, you're coming along.
Yeah.
I'm not going alone.
Yeah, okay.
If I'm going down, I'm taking you with me.
I see. Why are you going to take me with you? I don't need to go with you.
Because you're right here, so I'm going to sign you up right now.
Oh, I see.
Hey, let's get a private tour, and we'll go on the most haunted night of the year. Halloween.
True.
All Hallows Eve. All ghosts and spirits are released to cause mayhem on one night of the year with no consequences. Halloween. Then at sunup, they have to go back to their respective areas or they will be turned to stone.
True. And I think a good understanding for Pennhurst is they got the I Go Home documentary. You know, it pretty much talks about the decades of people that have been there, what they did, what was best for children, family, community, and then the history that can be remembered, story that can be told. Pretty much it's by Public Media of Central Peninsula, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Pennhurst State School and Hospital location, and they're doing that documentary. That's probably the best thing to learn about it, learn about the history, see what actually happened. Now, definitely eugenics was the dark history and the Dr. Fraser at the time. But you also have to know that what really happened was the inability to treat these people, then understand who they were. Proximity in women passed down from parents. The forgotten was really what eugenics was, the focus was about.
You also have to realize that what you just said, you had these doctors that were being hired and nurses alike that have no training in what these people were going through whatsoever. In fact, medicine of all these kinds at the time was just beginning. And you got doctors in there wanting to do experiments because they want to try to say, oh, I cured this. But at what cost? You just killed 10 people to prove it.
True, he had no connection to the outside world. They had its own power supply, food, rail station, to the importing in the county. Parents would commit children against their will. Patients will have extremely different needs, be forced together. Say you had a violent patient room with a non-verbal autistic patient. The issues that can happen there. Patients on suicide watch with hyperactive minors. Shockingly or not shockingly, most people, women of childbearing age, were thought to be promiscuous, that they were doing this because they wanted to, not because, they had any free will to not do that. So, I mean, what can we really say actually happened was for the best fit for society in this case?
Based on that definition, there is no best. It was basically used in that situation you gave. It was used to have people that, regardless of condition, were unwanted.
Yeah.
That's all they were. For whatever reason you just listed, pregnancies, mental, epileptic, whatever reason, they were just shoved in this place because it was available and they were unwanted for whatever reason. And they were kept there and died.
We're misunderstood, forgotten, didn't have access to the outside world, so no one could actually know what was happening. Parents to say, pretty much, they'll sign their child over and they'll go with their days. So it's definitely interesting. And then it's the Buck versus Bell that forced sterilization of the unfit, which included the disabled, which went against the U.S. Constitution. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough, is what a justice on the Supreme Court said. That 3 generations of imbeciles at this facility are enough to not have done violating constitutional rights.
And on that, I know the case you're talking about because I read it too. That particular case was what caused the closing of the institution in 1987.
True, but this case was in 1927 when this is happening. But this is the forced sterilization.
No, they did those sterilizations until the government decided, or finally caught wind of, because if I remember right, this place was entirely isolated, self-sufficient. Like nobody really went anywhere. If you got put in here, you did not see the real world ever again until finally somebody in the government said, look, enough is enough.
True.
And they closed it.
Yeah.
Same way Alcatraz got shut down. Eventually, they said, look, the treatment is enough. We're closing it because of the treatment of the prisoners. Just like this. And you could say, in one sense, Pennhurst was a prison. It was not a hospital.
And there is one story I'd like to share. Dr. Jesse Field, that's his name. And the tactic for children's misbehavior, building Q, second floor, Q2. Children, lowest IQs would be kept there. To punish other children not on Q2, they would lock them in a room. The Q2 children will be left together on their own devices. And then if you would to punish the low IQ, to punish the higher IQ, they would downgrade, put them with the lower IQ, less hyperactive, and still drug to calm them down. So one case study was Johnny faced this punishment, suffered the effects. He was bullied by the kids in Q2. Dr. Field said this was good for the kids, but he also started losing his language, skills and competence. I mean, I can go on, but Dr. Theo is very, definitely what I would say, the environment of what these physicians were given liberty to do. I don't understand. Like, gosh, these physicians are out of their mind, to be honest.
I don't think there's any physician at that place that actually had a right mind.
I think they got crazy themselves.
Well, I mean, if even the physicians weren't allowed out, wouldn't you go insane?
Yeah. If you had epilepsy, what were you doing there? That's what my question would be.
I want to know with this. I can understand locking the patients up, but where do the physicians sleep? With the patients? Oh, wait.
Well, I don't know if
the
you would,
IDs.
you would definitely lose your mind. You'd not be able to talk and not be able to do anything. You might lash out. Think your own reflection in the mirror is an attack by a foreign adversary.
Look at hospitals today. They're not much better.
True, but at least they have some standard of care and constitutional rights.
And at least they're not authorized, the doctors and the nurses, to hit the patients.
Yeah, but that helps too. So,
I mean, think about it. Oh, geez, this person came in with a mental problem nowadays.
man.
We don't know what's about, but let's go throw them into like the janitor closet and go hit them to death. Maybe we'll figure out what happens.
Yeah, or you're a higher IQ kid, we're with a lower place IQ kid, and the Q2 is just your torture realm with the playground.
Excuse my language, but let's beat the crap out of the kid. Maybe he'll make an improvement and be moved up to the 3rd floor instead of the 2nd.
Oh gosh, this is terrible.
That's just terrible. Let's beat the hell out of the kid since he's the number 2. Oh wait, he saw an inch of improvement. Okay, well you've been leveled up to the next floor.
Yeah, but yeah, is there anything closing arguments you want to say about Pennhurst Asylum Haunted House and how people perceive them?
I mean, anything else I want to say? I think we covered everything. It went from a good hospital to substandard to a mental institution. What's next? Gonna kill somebody in modern day because they're walking through the hall?
Yeah, I think the twisted version of how the ideological ideas of eugenics being the factor in driving these patients and these practitioners to experiment with their lives and their state of mind is more evidence of the fact that Pennhurst is definitely more activity, more negative presence that will never go away. So who knows what could else be lingering there?
Well, who knows? We are going to. I'm signing us up for a Halloween. We're going.
Oh gosh. But yeah.
Hey, I'm from Pennsylvania. My family's there. Well, we can stay over at their house and then go the next day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Think about the material you'll get for your podcast when we do the Halloween special.
Oh, I see that. But yeah.
Think about that would work for Pennhurst. What they'll hear is us. He's screaming in the background. I wonder if the cafeteria is haunted.
Maybe the food will be thrown at you. There you go. Haunted food.
I wonder if that means if it's haunted, they actually died from the food.
Gosh, I don't know. If they got food poisoning, who knows? But this concludes this episode of Pennhurst Asylum Haunted House and Stephen going chaos at the end. So, bye guys. Gosh.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.